Hey, everybody. This is Release the Adventure, a podcast all about going outside, seeing what kind of trouble we can get in, and doing all the outside. All of it. But today, we're here to talk about what you need to be a mountain biker. In our last episode, we went into the in depth about what is mountain biking? What do you need? And I just realized I'm Brad, and that's
I'm Shawn.
yeah, I forgot our names. You know, it happens. When you get so stoked, Shawn, so stoked, and you're just ready to talk about mountain bikes, sometimes names aren't even a thing. You don't even need them.
Right. Yeah, it's easy to get stoked when you're talking about mountain biking for sure.
So, quick recap, just so everybody knows. If you haven't gone and listened to our last episode, you should go do that first because that's important so you understand what is a mountain bike, what types there are, because all the accessories and fun things that we're going to talk about today all can be adapted into those same aspects of if you're going to be a cross country rider, if you're going to go into enduro, downhill, because you probably don't want a backpack when you're doing downhill. But if you're going across country and you're going to ride 50 miles, you're probably going to want to bring some food and some extra water. So everything's going to kind of flow into that as well.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of great information in the last episode. As Brad said, it all kind of ties in together. If you already have your mountain bike and you're looking for um, what you need to take your next steps, then by all means, this is a great place to start as well. Um, Before we get super into things, before we start doing our deep dive into the hidden costs of mountain biking and all of the accessories involved in mountain biking, I just want to tease a little bit for those of you at the beginning. We are running a giveaway to try to get onto the iTunes new and noteworthy section.
New
So it's
and
a pretty,
noteworthy.
yep, pretty grand and lofty goal. So we're going to be um, giving out a $20 Amazon gift card uh, for about 7 or 8 weeks. I think we'll choose our first winner. Next Thursday, I want to say. So yeah, all you need to do is just send a tweet to us with a screenshot of your subscription to Release the Adventure. So that's all you need to do to be entered. Anyways, how about we just jump right on into things, Brad?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say this again. I said it in the last episode. I'm gonna say it again. Buy a helmet. Wear your helmet. Whether you're gonna go for a half helmet, which is a typical biking helmet, or a full face, wear your helmet. Please. For the love of whatever you believe in, wear your helmet. We want you to keep riding, and I want to stay alive. So I always make sure I put on my helmet. So please, 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 please. This is one of those things that you can get really frivolous, and you can buy a $400 helmet, but you don't need it. An $80, $100 helmet, which you guys are like, oh, that's so expensive, but you're putting your brain in this, so let's protect it.
Yeah, we're talking about if you live in the United States, we all know all about our medical system and about the insurance companies. So, $80 purchase to protect your noggin, protect your brain bucket versus 10,000 plus dollars to try to fix up your head. So that is a much better trade off in my opinion, and potentially saving you a lifetime of pain and migraines and everything else that comes in with serious brain damage. So yeah, 100% buy yourself a helmet, and there's a little bit of versatility in those helmets. Like Brad said, there's half shells and full face helmets, and there's also helmets that are kind of these combo transformer helmets, to where it'll have a latch to where you can strap on the kind of chin guard to transform the helmet in from a half shell into a full shell. So if you're interested in potentially having the best of both worlds, you could run it that way as well. One of the popular ones for those transformer type of helmets is the Giro Switchblade, and that also has MIPS, which is also very very good. If you're looking in the helmet market, MIPS can be a very great thing to protect you even more. for rotational impacts to your head.
Exactly. So, no more safety. I don't want to talk about it anymore. You guys heard us. We vented for long enough. Now let's talk about fun stuff. So, like, what do I wear? What do I want to look like? What? How do I? I want to be a mountain biker. What do I have to look like, Shawn?
Man, I'll tell you this one. It's a lot different than being a roadie. Being a roadie, you're kind of strutting your stuff and you're letting it all hang out no matter what anybody thinks. Um,
Yes,
with
yes,
mountain biking, you're kind of the cool guy, you got these cool shorts and you got these jerseys, with all these different brands, and you got these breweries that are making mountain biking jerseys, and it's pretty sweet, I must say.
for sure. And don't forget about your gloves, Shawn.
Oh
Don't
yeah.
forget about your gloves. Because those are your three main right there: shorts, jersey, gloves. When you're talking about clothes, we'll get to shoes. But just talking about shirts, jersey, gloves. So let's start with shorts. Like Shawn said, if you're going to be a roadie or a cyclist, they're going to be nice and tight. Everybody's going to see everything. But there's a lot of options from that all the way to really baggy shorts that kind of just look like you're out in the town and super casual. But here's something
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up that most of you probably have never thought about when it comes to biking, and that's protecting your butt. And that comes with, Shawn, what is the technical name?
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought this up. So yeah, they're called chamois for the more technical term,
Thank you. Thank you.
aka a gooch protector.
Yes. And it literally is a pair of underwear that has padding in that area that you would sit on the saddle or on the seat of the bike, that makes it easier to ride for longer. Makes climbing uphill a lot more comfortable. When you get moving into the 5 to 8 mile, and then obviously farther than that, it's almost a must have. Um, for us, I remember the conversation we had where both of us didn't have them. Shawn went and bought himself one and was like, "You got to do it." And I was like, "I don't want to spend money. I just bought this really nice bike. I don't want to spend money on a padded butt protector." Well, I did it. And now I own four of them because it's the greatest thing in the world. And every time you want to go ride, I can't do it. Even like a simple ride around town, I'm like, maybe I want to wear it. No, no, no. We're just going to the bar. And then before you know it, we've gone to 6 bars. And I'm like, oh, I should have worn one. Should have done it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's they come in a couple different styles for chamois. They have just the ones that are more like spandex shorts that will go underneath your shorts, right? And then they have ones that are more like um, overalls, and it's like a spandex overall thing. So whatever you think is more comfortable, but yeah, it's one of those things where you'll go out for your first 5, 10, 15-mile ride, and you're just going to be aching down on your booty, and you're going to be, as soon as you get back into town, thinking, you know what, $60 for a chamois, not too bad now,
I'm
not
gonna,
too
I'm
bad.
gonna go buy one right now.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to stop at Walmart and get a ice pack. That sounds nice too.
Absolutely. Um, I guess let's move on to jerseys. And I'll be honest, I don't own any jerseys. I keep looking and I keep trying to find one that I guess I feel and that matches my look and matches my bike because you got to match your bike. You got
Oh
to
yeah, gotta swag out your bike and your look and your whole kit
your
for sure.
color coordination always. But you don't absolutely need jerseys. That's not one of the things that
No.
are like die hard. You got to buy one. Um, but for me, I just wear a t-shirt and then have a
Yep.
coat or something like that in my camelback just in case it starts to get cold or something like that. Um, but it's not a. It's more of a once you start feeling it and you go, oh man, look at that jersey. You're just gonna buy it. You are because you're gonna go. I want to be part of their crew. Or you'll join a team or a club that does rides, and then they'll have jerseys, and then you can all match and look fly like that.
Right. Do you remember that Left Hand Brewing?
Man,
Was it like
I
the
want
painted
that
black type of
jersey
jersey?
so
That one's really
bad.
cool.
So, guys, there's this jersey from one of my favorite breweries um, in Colorado called Left Hand, and they have this Bringing Back Black, and it's this really like almost ACDC kind of feel. Um,
Yeah, it's kind of ACDC, kind of Metallica esque.
yeah,
I use
feeling
that kind of
Jersey.
vaguely, but
But I'm 6 foot tall and weigh like 230. I ain't fitting in no schmedium. It ain't happening. Every time I go to this shop, they only got mediums and smalls. Every
yeah.
time. And they're like, even if you show up and there's a large or an extra large, we'll give it half off because they know how much I want this jersey. It's never been there. I've never gotten lucky
Nope.
enough to show up. And they don't do special orders either. So I never got my hands on one of those jerseys. I don't even know if they make them anymore.
It's been a while now, so yeah, I'm not entirely sure either.
So yeah, and you guys will see designs on jerseys and be like, just like t-shirts or hoodies, and be like,
Yeah.
man, I want to wear that.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would say just about whether you're wearing a jersey or just a regular T-shirt, you can wear whatever you want, but I would just recommend something with something that's breathable with like kind of moisture wicking technology because you're going to be sweating quite a lot.
Sweaty? I'm really
Very
sweaty.
sweaty.
Yeah, that's definitely true. True, true, true. Now, here's one of my favorite items that I've ever bought: gloves. Gloves. And Shawn, what is the company that we always buy from?
We're talking hand up, baby.
Hand up, baby! And if you haven't heard of Hand Up, go look them up. Great company, great people. The coolest part about them is that if you put your hands up with your palms out and your fingers kind of over each other, a
Yeah, you
design
make kind
shows
of
up,
a exactly.
which hypes me up.
Yeah, you'll see like on the palm side of the gloves when you put them kind of together, your hands kind of together in a certain like triangular fashion. You'll say like get stoked or brap 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 or sender or
Yeah,
all kinds of really fun mountain bike related slogans and sayings.
absolutely. And these are one of those things that we have to say is not just for the looks. We love them because they look awesome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but they they save your hands. Ooh, they save your hands. Because my
Yeah.
first ride, I got the biggest blisters of my life, right on the center of my palms. Would you ever had blisters? Imagine it not being able to write or pick anything up for like a week.
Yeah, I remember you getting that blister. That did not look good, and
Yeah.
ugh, yeah, it was pretty gross.
Oh yeah. No, I bought gloves that day. Just ordered them online, got them sent to the house because I was like, I'm not doing this again.
Right.
Not again.
Yeah, and another thing is you will fall at some point off your bike. Whether it's you just climbing up the hill and you didn't have enough power to get up the hill, so your bike's kind of doing this kind of wheelie type of motion over you, or you're going too fast, took a corner wrong, whatever it may be, you're gonna fall at some point. Okay, so just get that into your head, be prepared, and when you inevitably try to catch yourself, your gloves will save your hands from getting torn up from the rocks and whatever else you're landing into.
Cacti. Cacti.
Yeah,
That is the one that I always think of, especially riding in Colorado and going down south to New Mexico, getting into those drier climates. Ooh, just everywhere, everywhere.
yeah, it's kind of interesting. A lot of people up on the front range here around Colorado don't realize or they forget that as soon as you get into the mountains, there are cactus there. Even though, it snows up there and it gets cold, there are cactus around and they're somewhat common, not as much as New Mexico or Arizona, something like that. But they are common and in a lot of places throughout the country you will find little cactuses throughout these trails off to the side. So you definitely don't want to land in that.
Absolutely, most definitely.
So do you want to talk about some of our crashes, some of our biffs?
Ooh,
I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fun.
ooh. If you're okay, so there's there's moments when you're riding and you get the stoke. It's the easiest way, I guess, for me to describe it, where you let go of some of your fear and you're feeling really comfortable on your bike and you just start going. My problem is that happens like a lot. Like
Every time we reach the downhill.
like maybe too much because I start to feel the stoke and I forget what safety is. I forget what the brake is. And I just want to go downhill. And one of the crashes I can think of just right off the top of my head um, was I just hit a rock and I used it as like a little jump. And I got like a good 2 or 3 feet, splattered all kinds of fluid from the inside of the tires. And
The tubeless fluid.
thank you. And went around a corner right after that and went head first into like a brush pile. Don't know
Yeah.
how, don't know what happened. I just know I hit this awesome jump and then was on my back upside down with my feet in the air and I
Yeah.
didn't know where my bike was.
Right. Yeah. I was right behind you when this happened. And like you said, you kind of use this ramp shaped rock. You probably got like 2-3 feet vertically, and then you probably went like over 6 feet, just in length of your jump, and then you like landed onto like another boulder, burped your rear tire, and I thought you straight up popped your tire because I haven't ever seen a burp that big. I've only seen tiny burps, but this was a huge burp for your tubeless rear tire. And then you're like trying not to fall and crash, and then you just go straight down into this gigantic pile of brush that's just like all prickles and thorns. And then I'm just like, well, I think he's dead. I think this is it.
And folks,
I've been waiting for this to happen. I guess this is it.
I didn't feel a single thing. Not a single thing. I just got up and I
Right.
was like, "Where's my bike?
Where'd it
Wait,
go though?
how'd I get here?"
Right.
And all I remember is hitting that rock. And then I was like, "Whoa, I'm okay. I think.
Yeah.
I hope. I don't know what's happening."
Right.
Yeah.
Um One crash that I can think of off the top of my head was when we were in Cheyenne. You were in that apartment at that time,
Mm.
and we are checking out that little mountain bike
Oh,
trail thing
yeah. That
where
little
they had like,
park.
yeah, it was like a little park where they had three little tiny trails where you just loop it over and over again. And we were doing the black run where they had those like boulders. You kind of had to boulder over you those rocks. And I remember I did it one time. Like we were kind of going slow with it just because it was really technical. And like I completed it one time, and then around the second time I was going through it, you had already completed it, and I was going over again over this big boulders, like a couple of chunks of boulders, right? And I just hit the wrong line basically, and I hit the wrong part of the boulder. It was kind of jutting out a different way that I wasn't expecting or paying enough attention to. Hit that the wrong way, and I'm falling off this boulder now,
At like
straight onto the ground.
8 or 9 feet, being on top of the bike,
Yeah,
on top of the boulders. And I'm almost
yeah.
at the bottom turning around and I just see you. And it felt like slow motion.
Oh yeah, that's exactly how it felt for me too. That's one of those moments where the world's spinning around you so fast, and for me, I literally was spinning around because I was trying to figure out a way to tuck and roll. And so the world was literally spinning around me, and so I'm trying to tuck and roll, and I get my leg caught in the bike, like in the main triangle of the bike, and and so it's like wrapped around my leg, and as I'm tumbling, doing this flip, trying to not like land head first, and not trying to break my wrist upon impact as well. The bike just gets hucked from my leg like 15 feet.
It just kept going. And it just was like, I'm
Yeah.
a plane now. Yes, this is great.
It was good, yeah, and I'm really happy I didn't hit my head or I didn't hit directly onto my wrist. I kind of hit between my forearms and my shoulders, and I kind of tucked and rolled, and Oh yeah, it was painful falling 8 9 feet. Very bluntly. Very non gracefully, like a cat would. It was painful, but man, I was happy I tucked and rolled to say the least there. And I was just when I got up, I had that same kind of feeling when you were coming out of the brush, wondering what just happened.
Absolutely.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
where did my bike go?
Oh.
Yeah, and then so I was just like, how did it get over there? It should have been right next to me.
You're like, there's no way that it's over there. That's not. I
Right,
fell here.
right,
Yeah. Oh
for sure,
man, good days. Good days. I hope
for sure.
y'all have those too. Get out there, go ride, get stoked, fall a couple
Yeah,
times.
there's something about falling a couple times and just realizing that getting that out of your system, having your first couple of falls and getting out of your system and realizing, you know what, it sucks, but I'm gonna be okay. And I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna get back on that horse and I'm gonna keep on getting stoked. And it's just kind of something that's I mean, falling's never good, but learning how to fall properly and getting that out of your system can be beneficial in certain ways.
The way I always think about it is breaking off the rust because you haven't rode or you've taken a long time from riding or you're new and you're really rusty. Um, but if you fall, it's going to come off because you're going to hit hard and you're going to clean off some of that rust and you're going to go, oh, okay, I see what I did wrong here. I see what I need to adjust. And right there, you're sharpening up and starting to get better and breaking off some of that rust so that the next time you go riding, you'll know, you know, going full send on a rock that you don't know where it goes at the end is probably not a good idea. Slow down, check your landing, walk back up and do it again.
For sure. Really, really good advice there. So do you want to get into some of the other hidden cost, the accessories that are these are things you want to do straight out of the gate. So I'm talking your dropper post. I'm
Yep.
talking I'm
Pedals.
talking pedals
Pedals.
and tubeless going tubeless
Ooh,
with your tires. These are
absolutely.
kind of the first things you do. These are like basically mandatory upgrades onto your bike.
Yes. I 100% agree on that. So,
Let's start out with pedals
pedals.
because
Cool.
most bikes, when you buy them, they don't even have pedals to start with. And
Hmm.
guess what? You need pedals to ride that thing. You can't just have empty cranks.
And that's
So do you,
something.
Brad, want to?
Oh, sorry, Sean. That's
Oh,
something
you're
different
fine.
from like Walmart bikes. Most
Right.
people are used to going out and buying a bike and it has pedals on it. Um, but you kind of have to think about it for bikers. There's two different kinds. So you never know if somebody wants this or that. So that's one reason that a lot of the distributors will make sure that our bikes are hopefully a little bit cheaper by not forcing a pair of pedals on somebody.
Right.
So
For
two
sure.
two types. You have flat pedals and you have clip-ins. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why would you want to clip your feet into a bike? When you're pedaling, you have to think about it in this distribution of power. So when you're pedaling and you have flat pedals, you're pushing, and then the other pedal comes up, and then you're pushing. So you're only creating power on that down push and getting it going. While with clipless pedals, you're hooked into your pedals. So you're even creating power when you're picking up your foot as you're pushing down. So you have that power continuously. Um, so a lot of people who ride cross country um, really like clipless pedals because you're not losing any energy. You're able to use your entire stroke of your foot to be able to get that energy to go down the road.
Yep. I think you explained that pretty much as perfectly as you can.
Perfect.
Just so you guys know, there is a way to get to clip out of it in emergency scenarios. You kind of turn your toes out into the side, like you're doing some Wizard of Oz kind of with her red slippers. You're kind of sending your feet out. So you can get out of it, but that's an extra most of the time in emergency scenarios. You only have split seconds to be doing that. So a lot of times if you're going over, you're just going over at that point, and that's the main downside of of clip in pedals. The technical term is clipless. It's kind of the technical name is kind of counterintuitive in my opinion because clipless makes it sounds like okay, so there isn't clips then, but yeah, the technical term is clipless, which is kind of weird. And you need special shoes to ride clip in, clipless pedals. You need cleats that have the ability to lock into those clips. So that's another cost that you have to factor in.
And then with flat pedals, most of the time they're made out of aluminum or steel. Um, so they're very robust. They're very strong. And then they have little screws that go around it so you can get grip on your shoes to be able to hold yourself in position, but you still can pick up your foot and get off that pedal comparative to the clipless.
Yep, for sure. So downside is you can't have as much power transfer efficiency, like Brad was saying, with being able to efficiently transfer, the power from your legs into the bike with the upstroke and the downstroke of the bike. Good news is that these tend to be, you can bail easier. Yeah, you don't have to buy cleats and have those special shoes for them. And I would say it helps you learn some of the techniques of like bunny hopping your bike and turning your bike in different ways a little bit easier, and like going onto berms and stuff. It helps you learn those techniques of how to properly push and pull and jump all of your bike. You can learn those a little bit easier, because when you're clipping in, uh, you're relying on the clip to kind of do the work for you rather than the proper technique. So if you're on that kind of train of thought where you want to dial in your skills, then flats starting out might be a good idea for you. I just want to say I still ride flats, and like Brad said at the beginning of this, was why would people ride clip-in pedals? That's still my thought.
And I've tried it because I actually thought about it because I know a lot of mountain bikers that really like the downhill but hate the uphill do clipless so that it's easier for them to get up the hill. So
Hmm.
I went and actually did a demo where I got to try on shoes and I got to get on a bike and I got to practice turning my foot out and all that kind of stuff. And I actually hated it. I think after a while I would fall in love with it and it would be normal. Um,
Right.
but I'm so used to being able to take a tight turn and take my foot off the pedal, put it on the ground. So
Yeah.
that I have a little bit more strength to push myself up or this, that, or the other thing. Um, but there was none of that. I was going a
Right.
lot faster. I had a lot more power, and I wasn't afraid to go on an uphill section because my feet weren't going to come off. There was no slippage because you're hooked in. Um, but when things got dicey, I just had to send it, which I liked because it was a full commit type of style. Um, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. So I've stuck with my flats mostly
Yeah.
because cost effectiveness. I bought one pair. I'm going to wait until they're completely bald or broken before I end up buying another.
Yep. For sure. So that kind of leads us into shoes and cleats a little bit, I guess. We already kind of talked about cleats, specifically for clipless, and pretty much just whatever design you like, whatever is cost effective for you. If you decide you want to go the clipless route, just whatever works with your clips. I mean, they all pretty much have the same type of design, but just make sure that you can clip in properly and it's in your budget and you like the design of your new cleats. However, as for flats, if you're riding flats or platform pedals, then you want to look into mountain biking specific shoes. And before we get into that, I want to tell you guys a story about the importance of having proper shoes
Okay,
when you're
folks,
mountain biking.
I'm going to interrupt for one moment. I was talking to Shawn before this, and I said, you got to tell this story. So I'm really hyped because this is one of the most stoked experiences I've ever had riding a bike. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, you'll have to chime in during the story, Brad, because
Oh, I will.
I was quite a bit ahead of you guys when this happened, so I wasn't super close nearby when this happened in the moment. But anyways, so Brad and I and my wife, we went up to Granby Ranch in up in the mountains in Colorado, and so they're one of those ski resorts that during the summertime they transformed the resort into a mountain biking park, right? A downhill park. And so we're going there, and this was a time that I brought my cross country bike to a downhill park. So number one, I'm already puckering up every single time, and two, my wife, so she's amazing. She really is. I'm amazed she ever agrees to this in the first place. She has a super kind heart and a adventurous spirit, and she, of course, she wanted to go with us. She wanted to experience this with us because we would just talk and talk about how much fun we're having mountain biking and how everybody and their dog needs to come out with us, right? And so she's like, "Yeah, I want to go in the mountains, and yeah, I want to come. We just need to rent a bike." So I rented her a sweet enduro bike. You know, it was like a the specialized in enduro, I think. So it had
Yep.
like 160 up front and then like 140 in back. So definitely more than capable of what we were gonna do that day, because we were probably only gonna do like blues tops,
Oh yeah.
but mostly greens because we're just used to normal trail riding, right? And so this is more or less her first real mountain biking experience in a downhill park. And so those of you that are mountain bikers, you're like face palming and just going, "Oh god, you idiot. Why would you throw your wife into a downhill park for her first time mountain biking ever?" You know? Really good question.
Yeah, we should have
Makes a
thought
lot of
about
sense
that.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense now in hindsight, but at that time, I was just like, yeah, it's gonna be awesome, babe. You're gonna get stoked. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be fun. You might crash, but it'll be okay. Don't even worry about it. And so, just to start it off bad, the very first thing when she goes down with us on the very first run, she goes OTB to start her day out. And so we were trying to stay really close to her, and the 1 second that we got ahead of her, she goes OTB, and we were waiting around just like, huh, what happened to her?
Yeah, I hope
And
she's
so we,
okay.
yeah, so we walking up the trail, and she's just like, so I got going OTB out of my system. Oh,
Oh,
really?
oh, well, that's awesome.
That's are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Let's just keep going. Do you need a minute? No, no, no. I want to keep going. Okay, okay, cool. I I like I like the attitude. I like the perseverance. And so she goes down, and everything's good the rest of the way down, and we're going slow and trying to take it easy because it's all of our first time at a downhill park, her first time ever pretty much having a proper mountain biking experience, right? So we finally go up to the second or third run later. We go down again, different type of run, and I'm like done with my bike at this point. And so as we were going up the gondola, I was like, okay, I think this is gonna be the last run on my cross country bike, and then I'm gonna go into the resort and rent a proper downhill bike because my bike's falling apart. The thing is literally falling apart. And so I don't know if I'm going to make it down any more runs. And I didn't want to dent a rim, all that fun stuff. So I get going down. Everything's fine on my run. And so before I went down, I asked Brad if he could stay with her, make sure she was safe, in case she crashed and needed help. And so, like the good friend that he is, Brad does so. And I'm gonna hand off the story to you, Brad, from this point
So,
out.
so Yuvi had just started to get the stoke going. She had just started to feel the flow. So I said, "You go first. I'll ride behind you because I don't want to be." Because I was on an enduro bike, I was very comfortable, so I could really send it down a mountain and leave her behind. So I was like, "You go first. I'll go at your pace. Watch what you're doing, that type of thing." Um, we're on like a greenish blue that has some tabletops, and it starts to get a little bit more flowy. Um, and she starts getting it, and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling the stoke right now. This is awesome. On her second tabletop, her foot slips off the pedal, and her calf hits her tire, And you're like, oh, well, she's probably okay. Well, she was wearing shorts, so it was open skin against a tire. The tire
Oh,
had completely ripped open her skin and made almost a tread pattern on the back of her
yeah.
calf. I
So it
didn't
was
know. I didn't even know. She didn't
yeah.
even flinch. No flinch. We get all the way down the mountain. She's still slaying it, feeling the stoke. I see the smile on her face. And so we get down to the bottom, and she goes, I should probably get this looked at. And you had just walked up to us, and I looked down, and I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I
so
was
I'm at the bottom,
stoked.
and I see her smile, so I'm smiling. I'm like, "Hey, that's awesome. So did you have fun?" And Brett's like, "Yeah, we got it good. She was stoked, but and she's like, "Yeah, we need to go to the first aid." I'm like, "What do you mean we need to go to the first aid?" and she turns around and just to clarify, her the back of her calf actually hit her front sprocket crank, and so where it hit
Oh,
that gear, so her foot
okay. So
slipped off
I
the
was
pedal
wrong.
because she was wearing keen like closed toe sandals, so like hiking sandals more or less, and so yeah, her feet slipped off the platforms. That front sprocket um ripped up the back of her calf, and then she also like got road rash on her shin because then she instinctively put her leg forward, and then that's when the tire kind of gave her shin a little bit of road rash in addition to that. And so I'm obviously very worried, and I'm just like, she turns around and shows me her back of her calf, and it's just it's just a shark attack. The thing is like it looks like she's got bit by a shark. Literally, there was like six big chunks just like missing out of her skin, and I'm sure I went as pale as a ghost there, and
Yes,
I'm
you
like
did.
about ready to pick her up and give her a piggyback ride or something to the first aid. But yeah, I was just like, nope, we are done. Nope. And so I'm like going into mama bear mode or papa bear mode. I don't know. Hu- husband bear mode, I suppose you could say. And yeah, she goes into the first aid and she's like, it really doesn't hurt, hun. I'm just like, what do you mean it doesn't hurt? Look at that thing.
She had the stoke. That's what she was
Yeah,
living on right there.
she's like, well, maybe we could go back down. I was like, no, 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 no. We can't go back down. You got bit by a shark. And then the first aid team they see this and they're just like, so how did this happen? And then I just
And
have this guilty look on my face and I was like, well, she didn't have proper mountain biking shoes and we thought her Keens would be enough, and so
because
she's wearing Keens, and they just
I,
like they all just look at me just like, she's wearing Keens.
yeah, I
Keens.
strictly remember the one of the rangers there looks down and goes, "You weren't wearing these shoes, right?" And oh, Yuvi's face. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't smart.
So there's your problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this is if if you don't want to look like you're a shark attack victim, I'd recommend buying a solid pair of shoes. So Brad, do you want to talk a little bit about 510s and other mountain biking shoes?
So there's a lot of different brands that make mountain bike specific shoes. Um, but our go to is 510. And the reason why is because they fit more like a tennis shoe, um, and less like a climbing shoe. And I don't know if any of you climb or anything like that. Climbing shoes are very narrow, they're very tight to your feet and they're form fitting. Um, while 510s are more like tennis shoes that are stiffer with a rubber compound on the bottom that's fairly thick, probably about an inch, that is supposed to be really sticky in the
Oh yeah.
sense of rocks. Like if you ever go hiking in these, they're wonderful because you're not slipping on any rocks. You're super comfortable the whole time. It's the same thing when you're putting them on those flats and those little screws are stabbing into there. you're not slipping off unless you pick up your feet.
Right, for sure. It's very hard to lose traction or lose grip, I should say, on off of your platform pedals. And sometimes when you want to slightly adjust your feet, it's almost kind of hard to slightly adjust your feet. So that's a good sign that it's gripping on well.
And a couple other brands that make them are Shimano, which is a big mountain biking brand or just biking brand in general. And their shoe is more of like a traditional tennis shoe with a high arch. So you only have the ball of your foot and then your heel. While 510s are almost skater ish
Yep.
with that Vans style, with that completely flat
Right.
bottom.
And that leads us into, while skater shoes, you can ride mountain bikes with skater shoes because skater shoes are also designed to be very grippy, right? You get to grip onto the skateboard, grip onto your BMX pedals. So skater shoes are also acceptable. But like your your Converse, your Chucks, those probably not so good. Those don't have hardly enough grip.
Yeah,
That will make sure you have a bad time.
exactly. And they're not comfortable. They're not as comfortable as something like 510s because
Yeah,
510s almost have a piece of like thicker plastic in between your sole and your foot just to keep the rigidity so that
yeah,
your foot stays flat instead of like your chucks where you can bend your toe back and the whole shoe will bend in half. You
right.
don't want that because then the opposite can happen where you put too much pressure on your toes and then your toes can curl over your pedals and then that puts your toes that much closer to the ground, which that can cause problems as well.
Yeah. And also with that, with 510s, they're not hard. They're not hard toes or like steel toes, but they are like they have a reinforced toe, and then they're reinforced off to the side of your foot, to where when you're banging up against stuff that could potentially hit you on your toes or the side of your foot when you're rock bashing your pedals trying to get by a tight space, your feet will still be protected there, so you're less likely to hurt your toes or the side of your foot. So that's also a big boon.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's clothing, Sean. Socks. I almost missed socks.
There's all kinds of fun socks.
You can so people say that there are mountain spikes specific socks. That's some bullharky.
Yeah,
You you wear what you want to wear that's comfortable.
yeah.
Obviously, you don't want to wear thick cotton socks because your feet are going to
No.
overheat and then you're going to be sweating to death. But you also
Yeah,
don't want to
just
wear dress socks that don't give you any support and then you're getting blisters.
right. Just thin, breathable socks that are going to protect the soles of your feet.
So,
So
I guess let's move
do
on to some
you
fun things.
yeah, let's do you want to talk about like tubeless tires and then dropper posts?
Yeah, and then we can rock
Those are kind of
into
the two
some,
big ones left,
yeah,
I would say.
and then we can go into some hydration packs and things that make things easier to ride.
Yeah.
So, tubeless, that concept, um, everybody knows about, but I guess it doesn't click for a lot of people. So, um, your bikes that most people are used to have a tube inside of them. So you probably, when you were a kid, popped a tube and then you put that green slime in there hoping it would fill the hole so you wouldn't have to buy a new tube and fill it up. But your car is tubeless because there's no tube in your car tire. It just runs off the pressure from the air to hold the tire in place. Mountain bike tires has also taken on that. Um, and that's 26 to 29ers and two fat bikes all
And
have
plus
the
size.
plus size, yeah, all have the ability to use tubeless.
Yep. It's one of those things that's pretty much recommended as like a mandatory upgrade. It's something you want to do ASAP, and there's a lot of benefits into that. You get to run lower air pressure, and so our roadies out there just like, I'm running 100 psi. Why would you want to run? Why would you want to run low air pressure? That's weird.
18, 15.
It,
What do you
you're running
mean?
You're running 15 psi, brother? What? Are you sure you don't have a flat tire? Because my roadie tire, it's as hard as a brick.
Yeah. So, and for that, you're probably wondering why would you want to run 15? Why would you want to run 100? Um, if you're running 100 on a roadie bike, the goal is as fast as possible with the least amount of resistance. So you don't want that tire to be flexing at all. You want it to be as stiff as it can get and give you as much grip on that tarmac to go as fast as you can. While in a mountain bike, if you're on loose gravel, sand, anything like that, you lower yourself down to 15, your tire spreads out more. So it gives you more support, more grip to be able to hold corners, be able to climb better, and just overall be able to have better connection with the ground.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost imagine like a road bike wants to glide over stuff. The mountain bike tire wants to be the rock climber. It wants to get in there and get into every single really little tiny groove, and it wants to grip onto those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Shawn. And its goal is to absorb the blow and not just bounce off of it.
Yeah, and one of the more advanced strats that you can do is to be running two different psi's between your front and your rear tire.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of people run their front tire a little bit higher PSI more around like 22 to 25, so then that creates less resistance when you're climbing, and also when you're landing, it kind of more bounces you up rather than just taking the blow full on. So then you kind of spring up a little bit, so then you can recover easier. And then your rear tire is more about that like grip factor, and that's more traditionally at a lower PSI. But this is also a lot of experimentation and doing what you feel is right.
And John also explained Cushcore.
Yeah, Cush Core's super sweet. So Brad hasn't gone on to the Cush Core life.
I'm not
Hopefully
ready.
soon.
I'm not ready.
Hopefully soon. Um, but basically, so Cush Core is this insert that you put into your tubeless tire, which is basically this dense foam that goes on the inside of your rim that works as basically a protectant to your rims. And so if you've ever dinged up and bent your rim, or if you ever done this and you're really sad, but if you've ever tacoed a rim, you know that you're
Ooh.
done. You're done.
Yeah.
There is no coming back. You gotta get a new rim. And yeah, so the Cush Core helps provide protection to your rims, number one, and two, it acts as like a pseudo suspension um, to help you. And so for me with my cross country bike, it was like a night and day difference. It helped so much because it would take off so much of the blow that I was feeling. Because a lot of times with my cross country bike, I have to land instead of like landing flat and casing things. You should in general try not to case things, but the emphasis is even more on my cross country bike when I'm trying to do jumps to be landing at the diagonal of the downhill of the ramp, right? So I'm going at the correct slope of the hill as the landing point, whereas like landing at like an awkward flat like angle of some sort. And then this helps me ease up on that suspension. It acts as like that pseudo suspension. And when you upgrade your rims to like $600,000 rims, you're gonna want to protect your rims for sure.
And I'm not there, Shawn. And I know there's going to be a day where I'm going to crack a rim or I'm going to get a really big dent. And then I'm going to wish I had Cushcore. But
Yeah, that's when you go and buy your new $1,000 rims, you're gonna think to yourself, what's another $100 to install Cush Core?
for sure, absolutely.
And Cush Core, that's a brand. That's the most popular brand. But there's also Huck Norris, which is a little bit cheaper because you don't have to use the proprietary valve stem that Cush Core requires.
Yeah.
So it can save you a little bit of money using Huck Norris or some of the other smaller brands that do the same exact thing.
Tubeless.
Let's talk about
Oh,
dropper
dropper
posts.
post. Okay. So here's something that I was a diehard fan immediately. immediately. So what a dropper post does is it gives you the ability to push your seat all the way down to almost look like a BMX bike, so it's completely pushed against the frame, or be able to push it all the way up, so it's more like a cyclist bike to be able to make it easier to climb and ride for a longer distance because it gives you a longer leg reach to get all that extra power.
Yep. If I was to say there was one mandatory thing, this is the one mandatory thing. Like the dropper post, if you can, look for a bike that includes a dropper post.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the more around the starting around like $1,700 to $2,000 range, they'll start to include a dropper post.
Yeah.
And this is something that it's pretty much mandatory because there's so many trails around the country where it's kind of this ebb and flow type of thing where it's a little bit of up, a little bit of down, a little bit up, a little bit of down. And you don't want to be stopping. And a lot of times you can't just be stopping every single time you're getting ready for the downhill and you want to put it all the way down, get your seat out of the way so you can get over the back of the tire. Or if once you're done with the downhill, you want to put it back up so then you have better proper power transfer into your pedals. And so this dropper post allows you to quickly adjust that to whatever height that you would like.
Yeah, because it's just not functional to be able to stop every single time.
Yeah.
Because most trails, I don't think I've ever ridden one that's all uphill then all downhill. It's
Yeah, no, it's
yeah,
the only time there's been anything like that is when we've gone to the downhill park, right? But
which at that
any
point,
other trail, it's going to be a ebb and flow. There's a little bit of up, a little bit down, a little bit up, a little bit of down, and
and
so
if
it's
you,
highly,
yeah,
highly important that you have a dropper post to be able to handle that and make sure you have a better ride. And
exactly,
it's almost to a certain extent like a safety thing to where
yeah,
if you don't have your seat out of the way when you're on a gnarly downhill and you can't properly get over the back of your bike and change your center of mass, you're in for a bad time there.
yeah. There's OTB looking in your future.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely.
And the only time you wouldn't need one is if you're gonna do downhill specifically. And if you're going to buy a downhill specific bike that has 160, 170 millimeters of travel in the front, 150 in the back, it's not going to come with a dropper post because you're just going to take the seat and push it all the way down because you're just
Yeah,
trying to get it out of the way because you don't need it.
yeah. Those are the types of guys that are only going to slope style parks or just the downhill resorts. There's the only pedaling that they're doing is when they get down to the base camp and they're riding 50 feet to get on to the next ski lift or gondola ride. So,
Mm-hmm. So now let's talk for a last little bit about kind of things that make it easier to ride or a couple things that are just important to have.
yep,
So, backpacks or hydration packs. Um, some people like to carry water bottles. I am not one. I would much rather have a bag on my back and have it full of a bunch of junk than have it all in pockets and um, in jerseys that have little pockets. I'm much more of a let's just put everything in a backpack and then I can bring extra tubes. I can bring a multi tool, tire levers. I can bring everything so that if I do pop a tire, this, that, or the other thing, I'm not sitting there with 3 miles ahead of me going, I have to walk 3 miles with my bike right now.
yeah, that's never a good feeling. Fortunately, you and I have never had to do that.
Oh, not yet. And I'm going to put the yet on it because I know there's going to be a day. Because if we,
Yeah,
once you get to a certain amount of riding, no matter what, no matter how prepared you are, sooner or later something's going to happen. But I always wish the best of luck for everybody that we get back to the cars safe.
yeah, for sure. I mean, um, like you're saying, I really like having the hydropack backpacks. And so Camelback is a popular brand for that, but there's so many different brands for that. Just choose whatever design you like, whatever thing that makes sense for your budget. But for me, I'm much like a camel, just drinking tons and tons of water because I just get so thirsty. So on my hydro pack, I have 2 liters of water, and I'll go through normally about 1.5 to 1.75. And if anyone's riding with us that forgot to bring water, oh yeah, they're sharing with me, and yeah, I'm using
Yeah,
the entire 2 liters of water during the ride.
yeah, for sure. And it's not all about buying the most expensive one you see either. So you don't need an expensive backpack. I'm actually running a Camelback from the 80s
Yeah,
that that is super small, super simple. I just bought a new mouthpiece, tube, and bladder for it, and then it's good to go.
yeah. For my backpack, when I bought my like backpacking like extended day trip backpack, it holds I think 65 or 75 liters worth of stuff, and it came with another like mini backpack that you can attach to the big backpack, and it has like a little slot for the hydro pack. And so that's what I use. So yeah, I paid for an expensive backpack for that, but I didn't have to pay for 2 backpacks is what I'm saying.
For sure. And that's always a good option when you want to be more of a backpacker, and you want to be able to have that versatility of, okay, let's go do a 3 or 4 day hike. Then you throw that backpack on with that small one, and then you have all your items together.
Yeah, it is nice to have that versatility and that kind of modular aspect to what your gear is.
Yeah. And then first aid. Do not forget your first aid. It's even if you have a little tiny one that just has band aids, like alcohol wipes, um, simple stuff. Just it's better to have that than nothing.
Yeah, I always carry my first aid, and I've had to use mine multiple times when I inevitably fall and I get road rash on my forearms, and they're all wrangled and gnarled up, right, and there's gashes and whatnot. Um, the alcohol wipes, making sure to get that some of that dirt and bacteria out, and then just having band-aids available is super super important because I don't know, I just don't want that stuff to sit there in like an open wound. And with animals being out and about, you never know if there's any sort of other bad bacteria nearby where you crash that you don't want to get into an open wound. So you don't want to turn a bad situation into a terrible situation and get a gnarly infection
Yeah,
from what was just a small thing, just like road rash or something like that, turning into a really big deal.
for sure. And always don't forget, bring snacks, bring water.
Yep.
Because even if you're only going to go for a small ride, a simple um, Cliff Bar, just kind of little bar, is better than
Yeah, some
nothing.
some kind of protein bar.
It's always better than nothing. Yeah, well, I think that's all I got, Shawn. You got any other little things you want to throw at them?
No, I mean we can get into like handlebars and stem size later on, or I don't know. Yeah, later on. But for today, I think we've covered like the mandatory stuff more or less, and
Yeah.
your clothing options and stuff like that. So again, you're becoming more and more prepared to go on your first mountain biking adventure, and
Whoop,
we want to
whoop.
hear about it. When if you ever want to talk, share your adventures, you can reach us on social media on Twitter and Instagram. What an Instagram? That's new.
Instagram.
Yeah, we have an Instagram now. That's at Release the Adventure. And Brad's going to be posting a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff when he's out and about and he's taking pictures. He's got a very fancy schmancy camera.
I do. I do.
Um, yeah, I don't remember how much it costs, but I was very impressed.
Too much. That's
Too much is the right answer.
too much because I could have bought, I'm telling you guys, I could have bought a new bike,
Yeah, you could.
but I chose to go with the camera so we can do
That's all
some
right.
other things. But man, ah, I'm telling you, I was close to an S Works.
Your camera is sweet though.
It is.
You
I love my camera, but man, an S Works.
yeah.
I dream about it. Everybody will find their dream bike, um, and there'll always be that bike that you go, I'm never gonna buy that, but it's really pretty.
Yep. Yeah, so look for our behind the scenes adventure photos, and when we finally get to go out and go on our own adventures again for Brad and I, when we got to finally get to go back on some trails. It's been snowing here between Wyoming and Colorado, so again the trails are all mucked up, they're all muddy, and so can't go out again. But look forward to that. It's at Release the Adventure, and then of course follow us on Twitter. We're posting all of our updates there, and then we also post teasers there for upcoming episodes. We post these little short audio clips for the upcoming episodes, so then you can get a little bit of your fix in, and also these fun, inspirational kind of quote images. You'll have to check them out. They're pretty cool. And of course, our Twitter is at Release the ADV. And also, lastly, just to tie it all back in together, again, we're trying to get to iTunes' new and noteworthy, super huge goal. I don't know if
Please
you guys
help
have
us.
been. Yeah,
Please.
it's this is like the mountain bikers version of trying to be like, you know what? Do you see K2 over there? You know what? I think we can mountain bike down K2. It'll work. Trust me.
Trust
And
me.
yeah. If you guys have ever been on the iTunes new noteworthy section for podcast, you'll be seeing a lot of huge companies on there, and they kind of dominate the space nowadays. And so it would be a super huge thing for us. That would be a huge game changer. That would be to where we could start giving away bike parts, and who knows, maybe one day giving away whole bikes, whole
Oh, I'd
kayaks,
love
fishing
to
gear.
give out
Who
whole bikes.
right? Who knows? The possibilities are endless, but that would really jumpstart potentially years work of growth to try to get to that point. So we're doing a giveaway to try to promote that, guys, and as a big thank you for those of you that are sticking around and listening and sharing during this huge growth period. So if you subscribe to us on your platform of choice, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Radio Public, TuneIn, all of them, wherever podcasts are found, just send us a screenshot of your subscription to Release the Adventure, this podcast, and then send that screenshot to us on Twitter at Release the ADV, and you're entered in to win a $20 Amazon gift card. And it's not just a one and done thing. You could have multiple chances to win because we're going to be doing this over for multiple weeks.
Exactly.
Again, we're going to announce our first winner next Friday. So today is April 3rd. So our first winner will be announced April 10th.
Yep,
So look
yep.
out for that, guys.
So I just encourage you guys to keep following us. Also, reach out to us. Hit us up on Twitter. If you want to email, we have an email as well, releasetheadventure@gmail.com. And we will respond always because we just are here to feel the stoke. We're here to talk to you guys. We're here to get stoked with you, here to get you stoked, get stoked together. Um, an idea that I just thought of that if you guys are into, I want you to reach out to us. How about a group ride when the weather
Ooh,
starts to get better in about June, or Corona leaves us alone for a little bit, so we can
yeah,
have more than two people together. Go out and have a really simple group ride at Lori State Park or somewhere with simple greens, simple blues, where we
yeah,
can just have some fun doing simple stuff. And if anybody's looking to get a new bike, you can always reach out to us.
yep,
And we can talk to you about what kind of things that would be better for you. And if you're in the Colorado, Wyoming area, we'll even, once Corona, of course, has to ruin all our dreams, is out of our way, we'll even go with you to go buy you a new bike and help you
yep,
pick what needs to be picked, and talk about those hidden costs so that when you start seeing these bikes, you're not super stoked and then super sad right
yep,
after you pick a bike.
for sure. And also with that, right now we're planning on releasing every Thursday and Sunday. And if there's better days that you guys think would provide better growth or just works better for what you think works better for people in general that you know of, just let us know what works for you guys. So as of right now, after this episode, the next episode after this, episode 4, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet, but episode 4 should be released on April 9th, so one day
Yep,
before
yep.
our big giveaway.
Whoop whoop.
Yeah, and to circle back to what Brad was saying, one of the big tenets and goals pillars of this podcast is to make a community, make this feel welcoming for everyone, no matter what you're into. You know, mountain biking, road biking, kayaking, fishing, rock climbing, just hiking, camping,
Boating.
rock tumbling, kiting, boating, whatever you're into. We want to hear about it and we want to be a part of that adventure with you.
Absolutely. And
So,
if we're not into it and we don't know about it, teach us
right,
because we're always up for new hobbies.
for
Always.
sure.
So I want to thank you guys again for listening and making it all the way to the end. We are Release the Adventure
Woo!
and hope to hear from you guys soon.
See you guys. Keep on riding and keep on living your dream, living your adventure.
Whoop,
Peace.
whoop.